Welcome to another episode of Offbeat Adventures. We're standing here again on the grade of the former Canadian Northern Railway and later Canadian National Railways, Dorion, and then subsequently Kinghorn Subdivision. We are just north of the community of Pass Lake, Ontario, and in the municipality of Shunya. We're right here on this road that crosses the grade known as MacTavish Road number 4. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making our way kind of south and then west from this point here. So the grade here is heading back up to the north towards Pearl, and so we're going to be working our way this way. Now, just a quick note: you'll notice the very unusual nature of the gravel that's been spread on the road here. It's got a very red kind of tinge to it. So just keep that in mind as we kind of make our way to the south and the west here. It's going to be kind of a very prevalent thing along our journey. This is a fairly lengthy route. It's about just over 4.5 miles. It's taken us about 2 hours to kind of get our way north here. There's lots of stops, there's lots of things to see. It is a beautiful April day. It's a little chilly. This morning when we headed out, it was about -4 Celsius. It's warmed up a tad. I don't know exactly what the temperature is because there's no cell phone coverage in this spot here. We're kind of in a dead zone behind the ridges here of the Subdivision Peninsula, which I'm going to be talking a little bit more about. Here's our first little thing here. You can see the box through the fiber, and so you can see the mileage on here, 165.92, and so that is the mileage on the Kinghorn. And so for the original entities, the Canadian Northern Nipigon Subdivision and then subsequently the Canadian National Dorion Subdivision, we have to subtract 49.7 miles because those two lines started in Jellicoe as opposed to Long Lac, and so the mileage becomes 116.22, and so we have to go to 120.6, so we have a long way to go. So you can see right here, we actually starting to happen more often here on this line as time passes and it's not being maintained. You can actually see there's a washout here. So this whole section of kind of grade has been taken out by water rushing down from the side of the hill. So this is going to be a very busy section. There's, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things going on here. There is like 20-something rock cuts that we're going to pass through. We're actually getting into one right here. So there's not going to be a lot of downtime. There's a lot of things to see. Just to the south of us here, or sorry, just to the south. We are heading south. Just to the east of us here, you can see part of Portage Creek here that you're going to hear kind of running from time to time. And so here we're getting into our first kind of little bit of rock work. I do apologize for the sun. It would have been nice to actually have a little bit of haze today, but beggars can't be choosers. The weather of late hasn't been particularly great. About a week and a half ago, we had a number of days of just kind of off and on rain, and then last weekend was great. I was actually able to get out for 4 hikes last weekend, and then Sunday night into Monday it snowed, so we got a dump of snow, and that just finally kind of melted. It was 16 degrees on Friday. Then Saturday morning we came up to a little bit more snow, and that kind of went away, and this morning is rather chilly. So again, so you can start seeing and getting into the rock work. Again, you can see that we've kind of seen this in other sections, and we're going to see this again. That very soft shale-like rock and very red in nature. I believe it's oxidizing content inside the rock. I'm not entirely sure. If there's any geologists that are watching and can kind of help me out with this, because definitely not an area of expertise for me. And so again, this rock work just continues on. Like I said, there are numerous rock cuts in this area, over 20 separate rock cuts, and so there was a lot of work done in this section. Again, you can see that rock and how it is very soft, and I'm going to make a little point of this very shortly. Again, you can just see it all here, and there's a little bit of rock work here to our east side. I'm going to try to keep my head turned a little bit more to to my right here. I don't know if you're getting any sun in the on the screen here. I can't tell if it's coming into the camera or not. We're going to turn a little bit here in a second, so it won't be as bad. And so we're coming up to yet another rock cut. So this one's a little bit bigger, a little bit more involved. And again, you can see that very, very soft. If I tuck myself in over here, maybe it won't be as bad. You can see again that soft shale-like red rock. So as I mentioned a few seconds ago, I don't know what this is. Looks like an exhaust pipe off a vehicle. There was a little bit of a kind of an interest to this, so I'm going to flash it up on the screen here. So if you actually look at employee time cards, both like original ones, so if you look at kind of like 1917 time cards, and even I have one from 1945 employee ones, so they actually make note of this section right from milepost 116 is where we started this hike, all the way to Pass Lake at milepost 120. They basically make note to employees to watch this section for fallen rock, and you can get a sense of that. You can see pieces of rock here, and you're going to actually see in other sections where there's actually rock that has fallen down right onto the grade, in some cases actually blocking the grade. So that was certainly a big kind of area of concern. So while we can, we're going to do our little a little history lesson, and actually going to kind of tie in with this area here. So this line was built by Canadian Northern Railway between 1911 and 1914. It was one of the final pieces in Canadian Northern's transcontinental line. So a number of years earlier, around the turn of the century, Canadian Northern had built one of their first sections of line, which went from the then city of Port Arthur, which is now Thunder Bay, westward to Winnipeg, and that line was opened in 1902. And then a few years later, they started building north from Toronto, and they built up into the Sudbury area. So again, we're getting into another rock cut. Again, you can see that very, very soft rock. I'll kind of go slow so you get a good look at it. And so the link between the Sudbury area and Port Arthur was one of their last sections that Canadian Northern was going to finish to complete their transcontinental line. Now, they were very hesitant to build that because it was going to be very expensive, particularly places like this, okay, where you're going through a lot of rock work. And one of the reasons why you see all of the rock cuts on this section, you can see how cold it is. You can see the ice is formed. Last night it was about -7, -8 degrees at one point in spots here. And so Canadian Northern did not want to build through this area. One of the things they actually tried to do is they tried to get a running rights agreement with Canadian Pacific Railway between Thunder Bay or Port Arthur and Nipigon. And they weren't able to secure that agreement, so they had to build. And now the big problem that they had was as they came east from Port Arthur, they ran into the ridges of the Sibley Peninsula, which is right here. And the northern route around there was already taken up by the Canadian Pacific. And the Canadian Pacific had been built through the area in 1884, 1885, so they had to find a way around. So basically they had to go south, had to build a huge viaduct, which you'll see in later episodes, and then basically find a route through this area, and that route became known as the Pass, and eventually the Pass became Pass Lake. And so this is part of this loop, and you can kind of see that on the map that you saw at the beginning of the video. And so this route added 5 miles of grade to the line, going through this area. And again, it's very, very beautiful. It's very picturesque, but again, a lot of work to that. Okay, so we're going to jump back up on the bike, and we're just going to continue working our way to the south here, and then eventually we're going to turn and start making our way west.